another Good Dads podcast. I am Jay Fotsch, alongside my main man, Coach Brian.
Coach Brian Mattson, pastor of the downtown church.
Yes,
and
sir.
Kindergarten soccer coach.
I mean, you did a great job being coach of our 6-year-olds. I'm like, man, I didn't know this guy was a professional soccer player. I mean, you're out there.
Semi-pro.
It's incredible. But we do a series called The Difference a Dad Makes. And today we welcome in Crystal and Tobi Roberts. And we'll be talking a little bit about teaching financial responsibility. And please tell us a little bit about your kiddos.
Well,
Yeah.
you want me to go first?
Yeah, you do it.
Okay, I'll
You're
go
better
first.
introducing people.
Listen, don't start off arguing.
We will start that way and end that way.
I can't wait to what we get in between, Brian.
Yeah.
Have fun editing.
Well, we have 3 children. We're a blended family. My daughter, Libby, is 14. And I'll let you talk about the boys.
Oh, that's okay. So then I have 2 boys. I have Brady, who's 13, and Colin, who is 11.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, you guys, we're talking about financial literacy in kids and how we impart those values that are important to becoming a well-rounded adult.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you start there? How do you move into? I remember when I was a kid, I had $20 a month as an allowance.
What?
Gee whiz,
That
Richie
is
Rich.
a lot.
Yeah.
$20.
Johnny Morse is my uncle.
Yeah.
I don't even think my parents had $20 in the bank account.
No.
Well, that
If
meant,
I would have found $20, they would have claimed it.
that meant we had to mow. We had to do emptying the dishwashers, setting the table, clearing the table.
Oh, okay.
My mom was a stickler for cleaning
Okay.
every 2 weekends. And so have you, now I'm at the stage where I have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old and they get $5 a month and
Wow.
that they have to do chores around the house. And if they say, I don't want to do that, then we're like, then your $5 is gone.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
How usually inflation increases?
Yeah.
How
How
did it
did
go
you-
from 20 down to 5?
Well, I didn't get 20 until I was like 12.
Oh,
and could
okay.
actually mow.
You have to
Got
work
it.
up
You
to
could
that.
There's
Well,
a
mine
raise
is-
system.
Yeah, for sure.
I say mowing's a tough, sweaty job. I mean,
Yeah.
that might be worth $20.
I disagree at this point with the mowers that we have. I don't even know if my son would know how to start a push mower.
No,
Yeah.
oh no, he wouldn't.
We'll just walk behind it. I mean, right?
Yeah.
No, he's on the 0 turn. He's out there like a video game.
I don't ride the 0 turn because I'm scared.
Yeah.
Independent handles, I think not.
Okay, so how do we? Let's start off with that. That's a great question
Yeah.
about allowances. Is that kind of like first step in teaching financial responsibilities?
I think it.
Are you going to go first
Yeah,
again?
I'll go first.
Okay, you go
I
first.
think it starts a little before that with not being afraid of having financial conversations with them and making sure that they understand money before you start giving them money. So I will give her all of the credit. I am just the support person when it comes to everything financial. As an owner of an accounting firm, she does all the financial stuff. And I just say, that sounds great. Yeah. And so she brought home an idea, and I'll let her explain what the idea. And we kind of have progressed over the years, similar to what you've done with your kids. Like, they're not ready for $20 a month. They're not ready for all the chores, but they can do something, right? They can dust.
Well,
They
that's
can
a real good point. Before you kind of explain that, what kind of age brackets are we talking about? We were kind of kidding around with Brian a little bit, but is that a good age to start? And then what do you kind of work towards? I mean, I know it doesn't have to be a perfect age, but like around about.
Yeah. So the idea that he's talking about, I'm a big fan of the Dave Ramsey system for anyone who is new to learning about financial literacy, because envelopes are really easy to understand. You label the outside of the envelope for what it's for, you get your money, and you divide it into the envelopes. If there's money in the envelope, you can spend it. If there's not, then you don't. And so when our kids were really little, we wanted them to learn how to do chores, but of course they needed to be reasonable for their age. And I wish I could remember how old they were whenever we started the chore chart.
They were 6.
6. The big kids were 6.
Mm-hmm.
We call them the big kids and the little
The
one.
little one, yeah.
And so if the big kids were 6, then the little one would have been 4. And our chores are tough. I mean, they're things like cleaning all 3 toilets in all 3 bathrooms, cleaning all the mirrors in all
I
the
didn't learn that
bathrooms.
until college.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
Missed out.
and
It's fun.
I mean, I kind of look like that, right? I
Yeah.
look like a guy that
look
didn't
like a
learn
guy
that
who's
until
not
college.
going to toilet.
But they were all the things that if you were going to buy or hire a housekeeper, buy one.
Yeah.
Hire a housekeeper.
Buying them these days. I don't think we are.
No, we're not.
I haven't seen any for sale recently.
We don't have a housekeeper. But at any rate, all the things that you would want a housekeeper to do is exactly what we put on the chore chart. And then we put columns on it, and we let them choose what chores they wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And they really kind of started picking specific things that they liked. Like, for instance, my daughter really liked to do the dusting of the baseboards. But what we paid was $5 per chore. The chore took about half an hour to do, sometimes 20 minutes if they didn't jack around a bunch. Kids are really good at that.
I've noticed that.
But then we would help and we would get the chemicals ready and, all of the things. But then we would check it. And when they didn't do well, we made them redo it. And if they didn't do it up to, I'm going to say my standard.
Yeah, her standards.
Not
my
Tobi's.
Standards were more like your college standards. I
Yeah.
think.
So it looks kind of clean. We're good.
Then we had them do it over again. And they could do up to 4 chores apiece, which would earn them the $20. And if they hear this and they hear that you got paid $20 when you were a child, I really don't want any backlash for that. So I
They're
hope they
not
don't
going
watch.
to hear this. Everything they're on YouTube, they're not coming across this content.
No, probably not.
No,
Unless
you guys
our
are
producer's
on
going to do some
Minecraft.
kind of some kind of cartoon that he's going to throw in here, some kind of interactive game.
But at any rate, we would go to the bank and we would literally get $101 bills. And then after they did their chore, we would pass out their money in $1 bills, and then they would do it in their envelopes. And they had 3 envelopes. They had a fun envelope, a church envelope, and a savings envelope. And since they got $20 for the most part, because if one kid did all 4 chores, all 3 kids were going to do all 4. They weren't going to let one of them have more money than the other. And then they would put their 10% or their $2 in their savings envelope, and then they would do 50-50 for what was left. And they would build up money in their fun and their savings envelopes.
I think that's great because I think now I'm a former Dave Ramsey acolyte myself. And so, but I do everything digitally now. And so we just have it built into our family's budget online. So they have $5 and it's in there a month. And if we feel like they haven't done anything, then we don't add that to that sinking fund. Mm-hmm. But if it's there, my kids are at the age where I almost need to give them that tactile reinforcement. Like they need to see this coming into them and then they need to distribute it to the places rather than me just pulling up my phone and saying, oh yeah, you got $32 in your, that doesn't register with them. So I think the physical aspect of that at that age sets them up to maybe do like, I think my brother does like a green light card, like a debit card that they can turn on and off and stuff. So I think you need to teach that in maybe the physical tactile way and understanding where the money's coming from and where I'm putting it before they're ready for the completely digital.
Even though we're in a world that is completely digital.
And like what Dave Ramsey would say is like, you're not making that connection if it's never in your hands.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And then they would take their savings envelope every couple of months with the money they'd saved up. They would take that to the bank, make the deposit themselves. And then one of the best things is their fund money, they didn't want to spend it until they had really something in mind. They ended up paying for their entire flight to and from Florida for a vacation that they wanted to take. Wow. And so it took a while.
Crushing it.
It did take a while.
So we got all that money back. It's a great way to make sure that
Jay, you got a lot to learn.
I am taking so many mental notes right now. This is great.
Can you guys teach a class on this just for Jay?
This is
what
class.
this is.
Oh my God.
This is great. This Good Dads podcast is brought to you in part by our generous supporters. This week, we'd like to thank the following: Harry Cooper Joplin Supply, Train Supply, Hawkins & Sons Construction, LLC, Merrill, a Bank of America company, SMC Packaging. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Visit our website at gooddads.com to learn how to contribute to the Good Dads mission.
So what's really funny is, I'll use the ice cream man as an example. Yeah. So we play a lot of games in our front yard. So we'd be playing wiffle ball or foursquare or what do you guys call it?
Basketball.
No. When you guys play, you guys call it He's so mean to me. We do play basketball too.
I don't know what game.
Offense defense is what the boys call it.
Football with 3 people is super fun. You gotta have offense defense with an all-time quarterback.
But the ice cream man would come and they hear the sound, and of course all the kids would want ice cream. And since there's 3 of them, one of them would say, "I want ice cream," and we'd say, "Okay, you can have it, but we have ice cream in the freezer, so you can use your fun money and get ice cream, or you can eat the ice cream we already have." And none of them would get ice cream if they didn't all 3 do it, because they didn't want to have less money than any of the other ones. So at any rate, that was really fun for them to see. And so they started getting, I don't remember how much they had. I want to say like $150 or $200 a piece.
Yeah. And
they said, "What are we going to do?" And we said, "Well, we've already planned a vacation for this year, but if you guys want to pay for your own plane tickets, we could go to Florida. It's pretty cheap on an Allegiant flight. It was a lot cheaper back then." But at any rate, we literally had them book them online. They did that with Tobi. And then we physically printed out their plane tickets so that they could have them in their hand when we went to the Springfield airport. And as we went through security, I'm sure it drove Tobi crazy. But I told every single person in that line when we checked in that the kids bought their own tickets and that they did chores and saved up their money. And Tobi was like, "None of these people care." And I don't care if they care. Like, I'm so proud of these kids for saving up this money.
She's a better cheerleader than I am too.
Well, I would have probably told everybody just in case it took longer.
Yeah.
Like, "Hey, look, we're trying to teach a lesson here. Just if it takes longer,
we are.
Hang on with us."
I am a stickler for getting through the security line. But I was like, "Hey, kids, shoes off in the car. You're walking in barefoot."
We do not walk in barefoot. That's not true.
So when did you start that? What age? That was 6 and 4, basically?
6 and 4.
So as your kids are older than Jay and I's kids, have you noticed that you're reaping dividends on that because they understand money better?
Well, I think they understand money better.
I think they understand money very well. I don't know that they always care that much, but they understand it. As they have become busier in their lives, and we were talking off camera earlier that they just have so many activities that we keep them in, because we are also big proponents of keeping kids busy and not letting them have a lot of downtime, which I'd love for them to do more. If they do end up watching this, they should get in another activity. But as that has happened, they have scaled back, and then the financial guru of our family comes in and says, "All right, hey, you guys are leveling up for their," correct me if I'm wrong, 13th birthday?
No, you're right.
Yeah. What did you do for their 13th birthday for the 2 older 2?
We got them each credit cards. So they have their own credit cards with their own name on them. They are underneath ours, of course.
Once again, something I didn't get until college.
Yeah. You had to have credit.
It's very behind.
Well, this really came up because our big kids are going on buses, and they've got activities through school or through club sports. And I got sick and tired. I'm just going to be honest. I just got sick and tired of having to go to the bank and get $20 cash to give to them every time they have to take a bus ride, because they're going to stop at Buc-ee's, which is, super awesome. But then they get home and I'm like, "Where's your receipt? Where's the change?" And Brady's like, "I don't know. I didn't really have any, know." And my daughter, Libby, she's like, "Here is my receipt, and here are the 3 pennies that I had left over." But the boys are not that particular. And we thought, what, we're just going to get them credit cards, and that way they'll always have cash. We did have to tell them what the rules are. Basically they can't use it unless they are somewhere and they're going to starve to death, which hopefully will never happen, or if they're at an activity. But, we don't want them to just go to church on Sunday, and when church is over, go to the cafe and get half a dozen donuts to eat for fun.
Yeah, when we were growing up, kids, if you went on a sports bus, you got $10 from mom and dad, and you brought all that back. We've just replaced that with the credit card. That in addition, it builds their credit, since their name is on it and everything.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
So, and $10 will only get you 2 French fries now.
Yeah.
So it doesn't give you a lot.
McDonald's kicks you out if you don't come in with more than $10.
Right. Yeah. We don't want you.
Yeah.
We don't
go to Burger King.
And that's actually giving the kids ownership, right? I mean, that is transferring, like, you're responsible for you. We can obviously set limits and stuff on your guys' side, but if you want that, because then you can probably, you're an accountant. You can probably say, "Oh, that was your spending dollar, so I'm going to take that out of, the family's budget or wherever your line is." And so you don't get that money next time it comes around because you've already spent it on this credit card.
Yeah, that would be right.
Well, and everybody's, different. Even if you are teaching financial responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
I know, like, for instance, like when I was growing up, I would just save. I wouldn't spend anything. So I was taught, like, hey, you can still have fun with this, but everybody else would get sodas and I would just get like a fountain or drink out of the hose or something because I wanted to save my money. So I just kept saving. But that was just, that's a personal character, thing. And I would imagine, even though that you're teaching 3 different kids financial responsibilities, they're still going to have their own spending habits or kind of way. Have you noticed that yet with them?
Yeah, you go ahead. You know what we're going to talk about. Go for it.
Do you want to
they're
talk
almost
about
all
that?
teenagers,
this
right?
is
Do what now?
Almost all, yeah.
Almost all teenagers, yeah. So the boys will be 14 and 12 soon. So we usually have the big 2 that are the same age. But
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I know what you're going to say. Just
so
do it.
Eventually, after we did, after we did this Florida trip, we continued on the chore chart activity, and the kids ended up with quite a bit in their savings again. But they didn't want to go to Florida again, and they didn't have any ideas for anything else. And so we just they all decided to put all of their money in savings. So they emptied out their fund money, and they emptied out their savings envelopes, and they put it in their savings account. And then when interest rates got higher and their savings accounts got pretty big, we talked to them about putting them into CDs. And so
which is back now.
Which is back.
Yeah, it went away for like 20 years or the last 25 years, and now all of a sudden, like, CDs are like back.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting too. I remember those whenever I was saving. So so you would kind of recommend. I'm just going to ask you financial questions now. Not even about kids. You would recommend some CDs, is what
I would for children. Yes.
Yeah.
But to answer your other question, that was kind of one of the catalysts, because once the CD matures, we get the letter in the mail that says how much interest they earned on the CD. And we literally sit them down in the kitchen at the bar and we say, okay, the total CD was for X number of dollars, and this is the total amount of interest. And Libby, you put in this much, and Brady, you put in this much, and Colin, you put in this much. And this is how much interest you earned for doing nothing. And the kids were like, what? We didn't have to do any chores? And we made money for nothing? Yeah. That's how it works, right? You save your money, you don't spend it. And it was around that time when we had given the kids money for Christmas to go on a ski trip so that they could buy whatever they wanted. And there was a giant family discussion in the condo at the Airbnb in Winter Park about which kid spent money better.
Yes.
Which kid saved money better.
No, it's a competition.
Yeah.
They're so competitive.
Yes,
I don't know where they get it, but
I have an idea.
Probably from their other parents.
It could be from their other parents. Yeah, but they all have. It's so funny because when the kids start to talk about those kinds of things, sometimes what they think they're doing is not really what's happening at all, but it's genuinely what they believe they're doing with their own money.
Yeah. And Brady believes he is the best saver and that he spends nothing. And he spent the absolute most money on that trip.
Correct.
He came back. At that point, he was like a 10-year-old boy. And he came back with a bunch of stuffed animals. I was like, what are you spending this on? He's like, I like these. And I was like, all right, it's your money.
Yeah.
We don't police it. They have that amount to spend. And if we are out somewhere and they say, hey, I want to get this, we're like, all right, it comes out of your fund money. And we'll pay for it at that moment, and then it comes out of their money when we get back.
So, okay, speaking of that, that's a good segue. Have you had the conversations where, sorry, you don't have that money in your account, or your kid's such good savers that it hasn't been an issue? Because I remember my wife, when they were teens, she was a saver. Her sister was a spender. Sister wanted to get something, and my wife had to loan her sister some money because she didn't have it.
Oh.
It was.
She would have charged you interest.
I would have. I would have. Yeah. I would have written up a contract and made her sign it.
Yeah. But girls are kind of like, oh, she's my sister. I'll do anything for her. Like, she doesn't have something. Well, sometimes. Yeah. So have you guys ever had that where one of the kids is like, I want this, but they don't have the funds? And how do you handle that?
Or maybe you haven't had it.
I don't know. I can't think of a time where you've had it. Can you?
No. We just had a conversation earlier this week with my daughter because she's 14 and she likes specific clothes. It's the time for that. Mm-hmm. And she will text me things that she finds on Pinterest or Instagram that she wants. And I'm just not going to spend $50 for a t-shirt. I'm just absolutely not going to do it. And so I told her, I said, you can get a t-shirt that I think is reasonably priced, or you can buy whatever you want and I'll make my contribution and you can use your money for the rest. And she said, what if I just get one t-shirt instead of 2 or 3? I said, well, if you want to have one new thing to wear for your entire freshman year of high school, then go ahead. That's a choice she gets to make, but I'm not going to up my dollar value that we're willing to spend for those things. Yeah. But if we want to digress even further, I think it starts as simple as like when your kids are really young, just saying no. We see people all the time in the grocery store or at the pool or wherever it may be. And, you go through the checkout line, and I know parents really dread that because there's candy on one side and chips on the other. And our kids don't even ask. No. Right? Before we would get to the line, when they were really little, we would say things like, if you ask for anything, the answer is no. And the next time you ask for something, the answer will also be no. So don't ask. And then there were never any fights about it. But they also really don't want for much.
Yeah, I mean, we've got candy at home.
We've got candy at home. Yeah, you make sure of that.
Well, it seems like because you've spent the time setting the expectations, getting there and understanding what those limits are has already been built into your guys' system.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's an important component because now as a parent, it seems like my parents had no problem saying no. And sometimes I'm like,
it's their favorite word.
I do want to get you this, but I don't want to get you this. And so, have I caved? Probably.
Yeah. We cave on occasion.
Yeah. I'm the biggest caver.
Oh, yeah.
But there are those times when I find if I'm serious about it and I don't always give in, then it's easier to say no or set those limits and make expectations that are real that they can live with it. Because that's not unfair. It's just not what they want at that moment.
They'll tell you it's unfair.
They're
not necessarily unfair.
Every memory I have of a kid with my mom in the grocery store ended with no.
Oh, same.
Except maybe one time every 2 months we all got, I think it's just because she didn't want to cook, we got to pick out a TV dinner from the frozen section.
Oh, yeah. And what was your go-to? I was a fried chicken mashed potato guy.
Steak. Just wet
leather.
You didn't need a knife. You could do it with your fork.
You couldn't use a knife anyway.
That's the worst of all the choices.
And we bring the TV trays
out.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. We still have TV
but
trays.
Now I'm
we don't do
back
TV dinners, but...
Wait a second, that wasn't a splurge. My mom spent $3 and she saved 2 hours.
No, this is, and I think you're right. I think it starts at home because I don't like to say no either, but I heard it so much. Yeah. Like when we went to McDonald's, we wouldn't even get cheeseburgers because they were more expensive. Yeah. We would get hamburgers with the coupon and come home and put a slice of cheese on the hamburgers if we wanted cheeseburgers.
Yeah, that was a step further. Yeah.
That was a step further, but it was just like my mom was a couponer, so that's kind of helped me as well. But going back to something you said that just sticks out, no matter what it is, with kids or anything, and we talk about this a lot when we talk with coworkers or we talk with colleges, and just it doesn't take a lot of time to put some money aside and make money.
Yes.
Yeah. And you don't have to be making hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's not like you have to play the stock market. You just put a little bit aside and it sits and makes money. And I also learned that. I was very grateful of my parents, kind of what you guys are doing with your kids, that taught me that at a very young age. They're just like, if you take just a little bit of time with your paychecks and a little bit and keep on putting a little bit aside, all of a sudden you're going to have a chunk of money when you're 25, 30, 35 to end up taking and putting towards a house without having to work for anything, without having to work 2 jobs, 3 jobs. And you can have that other money for other things that you need. Right. So it's such and I guess that's Dave Ramsey too. It's such a very basic thing that's good for adults.
Yeah.
Too,
So you kids 14, 13, 14, have they started talking about their first job?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
probably
I don't
couple
think we're
years
going to
away.
bring up what Libby wants to do for
No.
her first job.
No, we aren't going to talk
An
about that
influencer?
like that. No. Oh,
Oh,
gosh.
that's
no.
Colin. That's the youngest.
No, that is the
The
youngest.
youngest.
He
He-
wants to be a YouTuber.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That would be his dream.
That would be.
He's
his
not
dream.
going to work for it. I've offered, hey, we will get you all this. I mean, I know all the people. I know content creators and everything. I will set you up with conversation, but you're going to do the work.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten there yet. He doesn't. He's not doing any of it.
But I don't know what the kids will end up doing for work.
Yeah.
And it really just depends on what their activities are. So, we don't have unrealistic expectations, and we really do prioritize sleep. So, these kids are still growing, and they need to go to bed on time. And they absolutely despise me for that. I'm the one who pushes to go to bed. I need a reasonable amount of sleep. Toby can survive on nearly nothing. But if they're in a lot of activities and they're staying really busy, we may not make them get a regular job.
Sure.
We'll have to see how it goes. But if they don't have enough to do, I'll find something. Now, on those same grounds, our children never say they're bored. Not ever. Because when they were little, there's just always something to pick up.
Yeah.
But what? What's
Nothing-
that face
no,
for?
I knew 3 minutes ago that you were going to talk about the word bored.
I can't stand it.
Yeah.
There's
My
always
wife
something
hates it. If they say it, she just turns red, beat red with anger. Like, how could you be bored?
Yeah,
We just did 3 activities.
Yeah.
that's
like
exactly right.
literally, like we just sat down.
Yeah.
Like we've been going all day. Like
Yeah.
it's almost bedtime.
There was
I wanna
a
paint.
comedian that we just listened to. We were on a road trip down to Texas, and he talked about his nephew rolled up as Derek Stroop as the comedian. I don't know if you guys have listened to him, but he talked about, he's like, my nephew came up to me, he said, Uncle Derek, I'm bored. And he said, well, he's like, he rolled up to me on a hoverboard holding an iPad. You look like you're from the future. You're the least bored kid I've ever seen.
Yeah, we laughed really hard about that in the rented minivan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so true though. There is a limitless number of activities for them to be doing.
Yeah.
And somehow kids are still bored.
Mm-hmm.
So almost kind of like the part-time job or jobs would kind of be more so like chores with a balance of their activities. kind of
probably.
thing, because that still kind of almost gets the point across as like responsibilities for making sure you're on your activities on time, or if you're in sports.
They'll
And
have
then
to
also
really
doing-
be involved in activities for them not to get a job.
Oh yeah.
I mean, even if it's just 20 hours every couple of weeks,
I was gonna say,
we'll
I
find
had
them
to,
something to do.
before I could get a car, I had to have a job.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
I did too.
so my parents had to say, "Hey, we're going to cover your insurance. We're going to cover your insurance, and we're going to buy the car.
Yeah.
But here's your note.
Mhm.
It was like 5 years.
Yeah.
So your payment is X amount. You need to have a part-time job so you can afford this payment." And so I mean, it was only maybe like $110 at the time, but I was like, $110 a month? Are you kidding me?
And I really did get a note for my first car. Yeah, my dad worked at a bank, and we went together, and I got a loan for $3,000, and he co-signed. And my monthly payment to the bank was $99.
Yeah.
And I can remember I worked 2 jobs, so that's
Yeah,
probably
our-
why Toby's saying that. He and I both worked a lot when we were in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually ended up having to stop playing sports because I needed to work so that I could afford to have a car and a cell phone at the time, although there wasn't much to it. I started with a bag phone. I bet
I
I'm not
wasn't
the
gonna
only
say it.
one here who
I
started
wasn't
with a
gonna say
bag
it.
phone.
I mean, I started with a pager, so.
Okay. Oh yeah, I had a pager too. No, I had a pager too.
And with that, we're dating ourselves.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Sorry
yes.
about that. But no, Toby and I both worked a lot, so work ethic is really important.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Especially it's so easy to just sit at your house and be entertained with your TV or iPad or whatever. Like if you don't get outside or do something that's more than mindless,
Yeah.
then you're doing a disservice to your kids, right? Because you're just allowing them to not do anything.
Yeah.
Well, which would probably go into kind of the next conversation about jobs and where you're putting your paycheck.
Yeah.
Whenever that does,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well-
you guys are a little bit ahead of us, but like it's almost kind of like, okay, how are you going to divvy your paycheck? Is that kind of a conversation that you have?
Those conversations are starting as far as, cars, then college and jobs after that. So we're setting the groundwork now for conversations we're going to have in 2, 4, 6 years.
But you're not giving yourself any credit.
I don't deserve any of the credit.
Well, so we
They're
starting
arguing
actually in
again.
2025, we use the Every Dollar Budget app, which is the Dave Ramsey app. If you're unfamiliar, it's just you allocate every dollar to something. And you do that before the month starts.
Even if it's for fun.
Even if
I
it's
think
for fun.
I want to make sure that I put that out there too. I mean, we're talking about, a lot of like balancing and paying for different things. But there is, you guys have also talked about, having money for fun.
Oh, yeah.
And especially when you get your license, you're going to want to spend some
experiences is more of what we do than anything. So we try to do one family vacation each year. And so we're trying to do more experiences than we are just small activities. But she's talking about, we seem like huge Dave Ramsey proponents.
I know, we're really not. I mean, I'm not opposed to Dave Ramsey in any way, of course, but I grew up reading Susie Orman, and she just has a different opinion than Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
Dave Ramsey was just simplistic for the children. But at any rate,
I grew up reading Goosebumps, and I don't remember anything financial inside them.
I didn't read.
But the Every Dollar app, again, is very it's very simplistic, and it's easy for children to understand.
Yes.
And so Tobi maintains that, and I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah, so we put in every expense that we have as a family. So when we talk about in the beginning, it's about having that financial conversation. It has what I get paid. It has all of the expenses that we have as a family. So we're talking Netflix, we're talking car insurance, house insurance, all of it is listed out, every dollar. And we go through that as a family every single month. Or when I do the budget, sometimes I get behind. And we'll go through that. Sometimes it's a couple months at a time. But we go through, all right, we overspent on our budget $200. Here's why. Here's how that's going to impact the future.
You talk with the kids about this.
We sit down as a family of 5.
Monthly bills.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Literally, Tobi brings it up on his laptop, and he puts it on the TV, and we sit on the couch, and we all talk about it.
Yeah.
And, some of the big kids, I shouldn't say it like that. By the time we're at the end, the kids are like, are we done? We're so done with this. They don't want to talk about it anymore. And I don't actually care, because at least then I know that they've listened up to that point and they understand. And we make them verbally confirm that they understand so that they're not just passively listening, because that's what Colin would do, the little one.
Yeah. He would.
The YouTuber.
The YouTuber. Yeah, the YouTuber. Yeah.
I'm not going to have to worry about this because I don't have like $1 million.
Right. I'm the next Mr. Beast. I don't know if you guys know that.
This is going to be great.
But we really did start that in 2025, because I told Tobi, I said, the kids have no idea what it takes to run the house and what we're spending for the things that they're doing. They just know that they get to go to basketball camp or volleyball camp, and they have no idea how much all of that costs.
Right.
And it's a lot, and in the very first month, I have a pickup, and my pickup had a problem with some sort of electrical something, and it had to be towed. And so we were way over budget on our repairs and maintenance. And the kids were like, what did you guys do?
Yeah.
And you guys ruined the budget.
Yeah. That's literally, that's how it went.
Colin, the YouTuber, just a couple weeks ago, this actually happened. I was mowing the yard, phone slides out of my pocket, right under the mower. Whoa. Phone is gone. Turns out OtterBox is great. I don't know if we're plugging some products here. The OtterBox around it, completely undamaged. The phone itself, shattered. And so I had to get a new phone. He was over there while I was buying it online, and he goes, that's how much a new phone costs? And I said, yeah. And he goes, wow, you ruined the budget. I was like, yes, I did.
Yeah. That's very similar, because I'm a very budgeted person myself, and I having to move things around because of life happening is a reality with financial literacy too. Flexibility is kind of key in budgeting, because like my wife and I, same thing. We have an old camper that we just took on vacation, and we had to make sure it was okay to drive, 4 states away. And when we got that inspected, we also got an oil change on her van, which meant the tires were in need of having new tires. I was like, I'm not going to go drive 1,000 miles on old tires. So the budget was like $1,200 that month for everything. And we usually have like $125 a month, because it, adds up. And I'm like, hey, we need to move hundreds of dollars from the rest of the budget into that one for a few months so that we can catch up. My kids aren't understanding that yet. So I'm going to start with the envelopes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that brings us into our next subject here, and that's savings. Mm-hmm. Do you take it out of your savings? Do you have a little bit of an emergency fund? Like, how do you kind of move that stuff around? Like, what's the conversation look like? And I'm willing to listen, just not as a kid, but just as an adult.
So educate me, and we will all sit here like this.
Come on, Miss CPA.
The answer to the question is yes. I mean, we have an emergency fund, and the kids know that. We've talked to them about what the goals should be for an emergency fund when you're young, right? Our big kids are gonna be driving pretty soon, and Tobi and I have been preparing for multiple years, literally. I drive this pickup, which I do not prefer, so that my Tahoe, which is very old, that I love, will not have so many miles on it that I'll break down while I'm driving it. And so that we'll have vehicles for the children, so that when they turn 16, we won't have to buy 2 new vehicles when we give them our old ones, if they want them.
I just get the new vehicle.
Tobi is the one who gets it. Yeah, I don't want anything new. I want my really
It was well planned on my part, I think.
Exactly.
I don't think you planned any of that.
No, none of it. All I plan are vacations.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But what we talk to them about is that, their beginner emergency savings needs to be able to replace their cell phone if they break it, right? We're not we bought them each cell phones. That's not even true. Well, it's kind of true.
Yeah,
do you want to talk about the first time?
We don't have to talk about the last cell phone. If anybody finds it off of Tortuga, it is at the bottom of the ocean.
It's in the bottom of the ocean. But at any rate, we got ourselves new cell phones, and we gave our big kids cell phones when they were 12. And when we gave them to them, they were their birthday gifts. And we told them that if they break them, we don't have insurance on them, right? If they break it, they're going to pay to repay it, or they're going to have no phone at all. And from what I can understand, I think you could get like an old school flip phone now. So, that would be about what they probably would want to afford. Who knows? But at any rate, when you start your emergency savings and you're that young, you just need your emergency savings for the things you're paying for, right? So they need to save for their oil changes. They need to save for new tires. They need to save for gas, things like that. And then as they continue to get older, of course, they'll have more expenses just like we do, right? Yep. So your emergency savings needs to change. And the other thing that we talk to them about all the time is that what we're saving money for as adults and as their parents is for their college. So, if they want to go out to eat and we're up to budget that month,
no college for you.
No college savings for you.
Yeah.
Right?
So hope you enjoy that hamburger.
Yeah.
That just cost you your career.
Yeah.
That was delicious.
But no, we just talk about it in an age-appropriate way.
Sure.
But since we've been doing it for so long, it's not awkward at all. No. And we're a little awkward, so it doesn't bother them too much. Yeah. Anything I missed?
No. We're all very educated now.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, is there anything that we missed? This has been, because this is tough stuff. Like, even, obviously adults talk about it. It's a number one, argument of couples that we've talked about with Dr. Baker plenty of times on podcasts as well. Mm-hmm. And it's, it's a process teaching kids, so we appreciate you guys coming on.
Yeah, we're happy to do it.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest issue is just starting somewhere. Just start, even if it's just a few dollars, just start somewhere with them. And at 4 and 6 years old, even if it's $5 a month, right? Just so they understand money at some level. Right. And just as they get older, you just progress through the conversation and try to stay ahead of it. That's all that she is doing with just me as the support person. So
you just don't want money to be taboo.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
There's no reason not to talk about it.
It's a tool that you can use to do whatever we want to do with life. It's not a record keeping of how well you've done necessarily, but it can help you do the things you want to do if you manage it well.
Right.
Which is why I'm going home right now and asking for an allowance.
Yeah.
Smart.
Talk to my mom.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, why is she at your house?
I know. Crystal and Tobi Roberts, thank you so much for being with us. Coach Brian, as always.
Happy to be here.
The difference a dad makes and financial responsibility. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.